Tara. Welcome to the Mom Room.
I am so excited to be here. How are you today?
I am good. Actually, today, as I was coming downstairs, where I record is in the basement, I was like,
Same.
wow, this is a day. And it's because they're cutting down a tree in my backyard, like a big ass tree.
Yeah.
And so the dogs have just been special today because they can see people outside cutting down a tree. And it's been all day. So I've just been trying to get work done. I didn't sleep well last night, and I have a sty in my eyelid that's driving me crazy. So actually it's quite a Monday. But this is like my favorite part. I'm like, oh, I get to go in the basement. I can't hear anything and just like chill with Tara.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I always get nervous when I hear landscapers outside when I'm about to sit down for a podcast recording because I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
I know it's like, sounds super privileged, but it is very annoying. But luckily, knock on wood, I don't hear anybody outside today. So far, so good. Except for the fact that I was having all kinds of issues with
I was going to say, I jinxed that because as I let you into the room to record, I was saying, I love podcasting with podcasters because everything just sounds and looks so perfect. And then her headphones weren't working. I was like, damn it, Renee, why did you have to say that?
No, but it's true. I don't know what happened. I'm literally, right before we got on, I was saying, I'm sitting in a graveyard of headphones right now. I went through 3 pairs of headphones. I grabbed AirPods, and then I had to grab my son's like gamer headphones, which actually this one works. So I'm not using the microphone for it, but I feel like I have the total look today. Oh no.
What just happened? Well, we're going to have to edit some.
Is it going to be one of these kind of days?
Yeah, I think we're jinxed, actually. Did it freeze for you?
Yeah, it did.
I want to blame the people in the backyard cutting down the tree. It's like they're messing up my entire day.
Let's blame them. Let's blame them. Let's do that. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what happened there. Sometimes technology is not, what you think it would be. But that's okay. That actually just plays into the Manic Monday part that we were talking about. It's just another Manic Monday. And so here we are.
Exactly. In my mind, I thought you had been on the podcast before.
I was back in 2021. So it's been 3 years.
I couldn't find the episode. I was typing it into, usually I search in the like Apple Podcasts and I scroll through.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it. And so I was like, am I hallucinating?
Is this a weird fever dream? Yes, no, it's true. I was on back in 2021 during the pandemic.
So long ago.
Yeah. I could remember exactly because I remember where I was recording it. I was recording it at our beach house because my son and I were living there for a time during the pandemic.
So what has been going on since we recorded last?
Oh my gosh, I don't even
have
know.
done so much. And also I just want to share with everybody, this is funny because when we had the call with Gary V to watch his new V Friends show and what ended up being like a Q&A with Gary V, which was like the coolest thing in the world.
That's cool.
I was looking at all the other people in the room to see if I recognized anybody because it was all family and mom and parenting creators. And you were the only person that I recognized. And I was like, oh my God, like Tara. And so this is kind of how this came to be. Yeah. Like, how did the whole Gary V thing happen for you?
So yeah, we could thank Gary V for today's conversation. So thanks, Gary V. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Interesting thing. They had reached out to me several months ago to promote his new children's book. And it was something like Meet Me in the Middle. And it was actually a very cute story because you read it start to finish at one point and then you like flip the book over and then it's backwards and then it's a second story from like that point to the end. It was clever, and it's one of the messages that Gary feeds in there. He has a lot of parenting advice in there. And so they had sent me the book, like I said, months ago. I think I promoted it in my stories. And then he was going to be on my podcast. Oh. And we were all ready to go. And like 9 a.m. that morning, he was like, oh, I have a family. It wasn't him. His team said he had a family emergency. And I was like, okay. And then I kind of like let it go at that point because I was like, I'm not going to push, whatever. And so the next time I saw him was when we were on the call all together. And so I was so excited to see you because you're right. Everyone else there were family vloggers.
Like YouTubers.
For the most
yeah.
YouTubers. Yeah. I felt like we were like the only people that weren't like blatantly YouTubers.
Yeah, I know. I was like, should I be a YouTuber?
I know. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Would you do that?
I put the podcast on YouTube and
Yeah.
I've done some vlogs like a long time ago. And then I started to do vlogs again more recently, but not posting them necessarily on YouTube. But I do love vlogging. I think it's so fun because you're basically, remember back in the day, you used to take like family videos? It's basically that. Like I bought this little vlogging camera. And so, for example, we had a trip to Disney. And then when I got home, I edited all the clips together and it was like a beautiful little family movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really sweet. I love that.
It was really, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
But,
I never really thought about the vlogging thing. I don't know. I'm so bad at that stuff. And my family would not be on board. I think
Yeah.
for me, more so, it would be my family not being on board.
So it's just like a Tara vlog.
Yeah. I mean,
It's me.
you have no idea how many times people say to me that they think that I'm single because I don't show my husband on my socials or anything at all. I did like an Ask Me Anything a few weeks ago, and I had a couple people ask me if I was a single mom. And I'm not. I was
Interesting.
raised by a single mom, but I am not a single mom. I am
So
married.
you said that your husband's a physician.
Yeah, he is, yes.
So is that why he doesn't want to be on camera? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's so interesting. Yeah. So my husband, also a physician, but yeah, he's on my profile, like in my content quite a bit. And it's funny because sometimes he'll be at the store or in the operating room and a nurse is like, oh my God, I love your wife's stuff. And he's like being recognized in public.
Yeah, so that's why Sam's not big into that. He is an anesthesiologist in New York City. And he has a very successful career in what he does there. And he likes to keep everything separate. Every once in a while, he'll appear in something. He's appeared in like newspaper articles or, different like press and that kind of stuff, but he's not in my real day-to-day stuff. And I have one son. We have a lot in common because we both have husbands who are physicians. We have one son, and I have one son, Jack, who will be 12 in November, which is mind-blowing. And he's in my stuff sometimes, depending on, I always ask his consent. And so like if he wants to be, he says yes and whatever. And so sometimes he'll be like all for it. And then other times he's like, no, it just depends. It depends on his mood and depends on what we're talking about.
So how did you get started into all the content creation?
Yeah. I'll tell you I feel like it's sort of a long story, but I'll tell it as quickly as I can. Mm-hmm. Before Jack was born, I worked at Nickelodeon. And I actually worked in social media at Nickelodeon. And this was actually pre the days of Instagram. Instagram existed, but it was not a priority for us at Nickelodeon.
Like Facebook days?
It was Facebook and Twitter days. So I was there from 2007 to 2012. And I worked in the digital media altogether. And then the last year while I was there, I worked specifically in social. And at one point I was Dora the Explorer on Facebook. And my mom used to run around and tell people and be like, my daughter's Dora the Explorer. And I was like, on Facebook, mommy, on Facebook. Like, please relax. And so then when Jack was born, I kind of wanted to go part-time, and they said, no, it's all or nothing. Either like you're going to be here with us like 40 hours a week or you're not at all. And I was like, it was a hard call because I loved Nickelodeon. I loved the people. It was a great team. And I said, no, I'm going to stay home with him. And so I decided to stay home with him full time. He was born the end of 2012. And it was hard because living in New York City at the time, I felt the pressure to go back to work. We feel like this very big pressure of like, well, you have the baby and then obviously you go right back. And so I felt pulled in a lot of different ways. Ultimately, I decided to say, you know what, no, I'm going to sit in this and not have my work define me for right now. And it's funny because Neha, who is head of Mother Untitled, she's working towards this movement of having mothers feel comfortable in not necessarily having a title of stay-at-home moms or working moms. And so I appreciate all of the work that Neha's doing so much. And so when I stayed home with Jack, it was very freeing because it was the first time that I wasn't defined by my work necessarily. I wasn't like, oh, hi, I'm Tara, I work at Nickelodeon, or oh, hi, I'm Renee, I'm a PhD candidate. It was sort of very freeing. And so when he was 3, when you have toddlers, there's so much like content in your head. Like there's just like so much going on, right? And so I was looking for a creative outlet. And so there was a shiny new website called Canva, and then Instagram was really starting to pop off. And just to give you an idea, this was early 2016.
Wow.
And so I said to my friends and family, I'm going to make an Instagram account and monetize it, and it's going to be about parenting jokes. And at that time, in like February of 2016, like people really weren't doing that back then. And they're like, Tara, that's not like really a thing. And I was like, no, it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing. No, it's going to be a thing. And they're like, yeah, I guess so. Okay, yeah, good luck with that. And so I started making parenting jokes on Instagram.
Like
and then
memes?
I moved out of at the time I was making jokes about living in New York City, and it was called NYC Mom Probs. And then we moved out of the city to the suburbs, and I was like, I have an existential crisis. Like, I don't have New York City mom problems anymore. Like, what kind of problems do I have? And so another friend of mine, she's a content creator, we were sitting like on DM, and we were going back and forth, and we were throwing adjectives at each other. Like, how about this? How about this? How about this? And I said, how about modern mom probs? And she was like, oh my God, that's great. And so literally like the flick of a switch, it was April of 2017. I turned the name to Modern Mom Probs, and then the account just took off of there. And so like when I started the account, it was all very like lighthearted, first world problems, all of that kind of stuff. But as it evolved, it was more talking about anything that falls underneath the umbrella of a modern mom problem, whether that's mental load of motherhood and postpartum depression and pregnancy loss and infertility, like all of the things now I talk about, right? And it all falls underneath that. And so it's wild to see how Instagram has changed since 2016 and 2017 and into where we are now, because like we were not doing video back then. And so for me personally, it's been a struggle to get into video because like that's not what we were doing when we started. And so like then I had to pivot. You know, many people obviously got involved in social media to do video because they were doing that. But for me, it wasn't like that. So I had to sort of retrofit it in there. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how I got started.
Would you say videos started when TikTok
For sure.
became
Absolutely.
popular?
Yeah.
Okay.
1,000%. So like it really got hot and heavy during the pandemic. Funny thing about that, just to interject my story into it too, I got a book deal spring of 2020. They said, you have the summer to write your book. It's due at the end of the summer. Jeez. And so I was like, tick, 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 like writing my book during the summer, throwing my son like fruit snacks, being like, here, watch more TV, watch more TV. He was 7 at the time. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, here's snacks, here's food, like go off and do stuff. And I'm writing a book about like, you know, being a good parent, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, here, eat all the fruit snacks. But during that time, I was so singularly focused and finishing my project. That's when TikTok was like popping off. And I like missed that like whole time period because I was so focused on like that one project. And so by the time I like lifted my head up from it, I was like, oh, this was a revolution. Like a whole like revolution happened. I like missed the whole thing, you know? And so my book came out in spring of 2021. And that was the last time that we spoke because it was in support of the book launch. And yeah, it like everything changed that summer and fall of 2020 because people were home and they needed support and they needed entertainment and they needed an outlet and they needed all of those things. And so yeah, you're 1,000% right. That video really like popped off in 2020.
So how would you describe your content today? And
it's
has
a
it
disaster?
Oh, okay. One of my questions for you was going to be about like preventing burnout. Like,
yeah, I could speak to that though. I spoke at Alt Summit last year about content creator burnout. I did a 45-minute presentation, like full-blown presentation. It was really good. I mean, like, not that I'm saying like to pat myself on the back, but I'm gonna pat myself on the back here. Like, I put a lot of time and a lot of effort into that. And all of my closest friends are content creators, so we get to pick each other's brains and we support each other. And so we're talking about this stuff and eat, sleep, and breathing all of this. So do you want me to talk about burnout or do you want me to just talk about like why my content's a disaster?
Did you experience burnout?
I did. Once the book came out and we did all of the stuff for that. Unfortunately, it came out still during the pandemic, so I wasn't able to have a traditional book launch. Everything was like virtual and it wasn't necessarily like what I had hoped it to be, but those are the circumstances, and it was totally fine. Once I experienced the burnout was after that, and that was probably closer in the end of 2021 and 2022, where I looked around and I said, oh, wow, everything's changed. The landscape has changed. This is not what it was before. And now I have to adapt and like go all in to try to learn how to do something that didn't necessarily come naturally to me. And so that's where I started feeling burnout of like putting work towards these videos and, all of the things that sort of go into the endless hamster wheel of content creation. And that's when I experienced burnout. But luckily I was able to like come through it on the other side, and that's how I was able to write about it.
Yeah, I find it hard to verbalize what burnout even feels like. And also sometimes I wonder like if I experience like ups and downs of burnout, but then at the same time it's hard to identify why you're feeling that way and then how to make it better.
Yes.
Because it's like you're just like feeling a certain way, and it's like, why do I feel that way? I'm not even sure why,
Yeah, I'm there. I mean, so you want to talk about it? Like I said, I had a 45-minute presentation. We can really lay it all out here if that's what you're looking for, Renee. But I would say there are several things. The platforms themselves lend themselves to, as I mentioned before, being on this constant hamster wheel of needing to produce and needing to outperform and needing to stay relevant and needing to stay on brand and on message and get eyeballs and in this attention economy that we're in, right? So like that inherently is going to lead to burnout, right? And also that the goalposts keep moving on terms of the platforms and the algorithms. Like one day Reels views are crushing, and then like the next week they're not, and then you're like, but is it me? Is it like my content? Like, am I not resonating? There's so many questions that you start to think in the back of your mind, and that inherently can lead to burnout and dealing with this full time. So yeah, it's a lot. We could unpack that as a whole other thing.
I know.
And then add to that also, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there, but add to that, like, you're a mother, right? So, like, you're also, like, dealing with being a mother and being a wife and being a partner and being a daughter and being a granddaughter and, like, all of those things that you are doing and being a person. Forget about just being a granddaughter and being a wife. Like, you're your own person, too. Like, there's a lot that's going into all of this. And so you have to be mindful.
So for content creators, are there tips to avoid burnout? Like one thing that I always want, and I'm getting better at it, I'm slowly implementing things, but is like a clear schedule and a clear, because I think people look at content creators and they're like, okay, big whoop, like you make some videos. Do you know what I mean? But it's really about like the mental turmoil that you go through. And so part of me, like the guy that I work with, I was like, I want to have a weekly schedule. Like for the Mom Room account, I'm putting out XYZ on these days. For my personal account, like putting out XYZ on these days, like have it very structured as opposed to just like floating around life, feeling like you have to put out content 24/7. And like you were saying, I could see a parenting article pop up on one of my platforms and I'll be like, oh shit, I should probably address that or like make a reel about it. Or it's exhausting how many times I send myself things to create content with at a later date and I never do. But like, like when do you stop? Like when do you turn your brain off,
Yeah, you're 1,000% right. I think that so much of that comes down to like our setting our own boundaries for it, because years ago there was like that one viral meme where it was like everything is content, and you're in the grocery store and you're thinking about content.
Yeah.
You're reading an article and you're thinking about content, and it's on us to have to like put the stop and be like, that doesn't have to be made right now. That doesn't have to be. But I love what you were saying about 1, implementing systems, 2, implementing a content calendar structure, 3, asking for help, delegating if you have an editor who's doing it better or faster. Because sometimes it's not necessarily about doing something like better, but like faster. It's like, where could you be allocating your time? Should you be taking 7 hours to cut this one reel? Probably not, but like if you have the ability to have a team to cut things together, or even when it comes down to like audio, for the podcast, like it just makes more sense sometimes. But systems are super, super important, and giving yourself grace. I know people always say that about parenting and stuff too, but the same thing is true for being a content creator. Like, you don't have to be everything to all the people all of the time, both as a parent and then also as a content creator. Like, you have to put your boundaries up. And that's how I'm very protective about my family and all of that when it comes to content, to the point where people don't think I'm married, which I've been married for 18 years and I've been with my husband since we were 15, but it just doesn't come up in the stories,
Yeah.
So I think you have to decide where and how you put up your boundaries and stick to them. And sometimes it is easier said than done, but in the long term, like, you have to think, what's your why? One time I was on a call with another friend, she's an author, and we were talking about social media, and I was like complaining about something, I'm sure. And she was like, Tara, but like, what's your why?
Yeah.
Like, why are you on social? Why do you care to make that particular reel? Why do you care to do that? So you really have to ask yourself the tough questions sometimes and not get caught up in the hamster wheel. I'm envisioning, like a hamster when he runs on the wheel, but then sometimes he like slips up and then his body's kind of like like inside the ball. Yes. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's it's one thing to be on the hamster wheel, but don't slip up and then you find yourself just like all like head over heels, like falling in the hamster wheel. So you just have to be mindful about that.
It is, when you said like, what is the why? It's interesting because once you start monetizing social media or the podcast or whatever it might be, you become very aware of brand deals and worrying about brands wanting to work with you, or because part of what I love the most about my job is the opportunities that I get.
Yeah, for sure.
Which
Same.
like, I got to take Milo and my husband and my mom to Disneyland, so I'm very aware. Whereas before I was just kind of like, F this and blah, 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 like, which is probably why people started following me. And now they're like, she's boring. But like,
you're like, yeah, but I still kind of want that trip to Disney.
I know. But like, it's funny because it's like, well, why are you doing this? Like, I find I'm more free on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, I am very aware now when it comes to social media, how I want to be perceived by other people, if that makes sense. And so you're also thinking about that at the same time. Part of my, like, what I used to love to do is like reply to trolls on TikTok. But then I was like, I don't know, I like, something changed in me, and I just was like, I don't really want to be a place that has negative, even though it's funny and I'm very sarcastic, it's like a negative vibe,
It's the energy. Like, you don't need that negative energy. I agree. That's actually, I do not reply to trolls either. I just let it go. And one thing about me is my friends are always like, how are you so calm? Or how do you let things like roll off your back? And it's like, one, I guess I just do. And two, it sort of comes from years of practice. But I just don't want their negative energy on me. Like, I do not receive it. You know how Elise Meyer says, like, I do not receive that energy? I simply don't receive that energy. I'm not there for it.
I've definitely, and I swear to God, even in my daily life, I don't know if it's because, like, I don't know, something just like flipped in me. And now I'm just like this calm, like I walk through life more like peaceful and mindful. And I guess that has come across in my content.
I can see that though. No, I could see that actually.
Yeah.
Like in your work and everything like that. Can I actually tell you a funny story? And I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say this anyway because we're just here and it's just us talking. So when I was on the show back in 2021, a woman reached out to me and she said, I have to unfollow you, meaning me, because you were on Renee's show. And I was like,
oh, okay.
Why? She was like, well, one time Renee put up a video without captions and I asked her to put up captions. Do you remember this? And so she was like, she put up, she didn't put up captions and I can't follow you knowing that you're associated with her. And I was like,
This was before...
sorry that happened to you. I don't know. I simply don't know what to say. I'm sorry this happened to you. And then I just left it at that.
I wonder, so this was before automated captions thing even existed. And so I remember content creators just being stuck like between a rock and a hard place because people would complain about captions, but also you're trying to story throughout your day while taking care of a toddler. And I didn't have time to sit there and always write out what I'm saying. Do you know? And I remember someone messaging me about this. And so I talked about it in my stories. I was like, listen, like this is what's happening, like blah, blah, blah. But that is so funny that she was so passionate.
Passionate's the right word. She was very passionate. And that hurt me because I do always put captions. I always try, like, I actually never listen to my phone on with the sound. I'm exclusively captions like 99.9% of the time. And so I see where she's coming from. Yeah. But I couldn't see her passion and how we were saying that she was like, I have to like unfollow like anyone that Renee has ever spoken to in her entire career. And I was like, okay, yeah, I wish you well.
Yeah. Man, I was just so on the Mom Room account, I shared a reel from, remember Super Nanny?
Yes.
Okay, so I shared a reel of hers. She was talking about how when you have kids as a couple, it brings about issues that you may have already had in your relationship. But people always assume like, oh, things just got really hard once we had kids. But it's like, no, they just brought those to light kind of. Anyways, it was like a brilliant thing that she put out. And I posted it. So many people were like, you shared Super Nanny, like she suggests like giving kids timeouts and like, do you remember her show back in the day?
I do. I used to watch that because I
did too.
College? I don't remember. I want to say maybe I was in college at the time. Maybe not. Maybe it was after that. Yes, I definitely watched that though, for sure.
But it was the same kind of energy. And I went in my stories and I was like, guys, listen, like just because somebody does something that you don't agree with, it doesn't mean like it all goes into cancel culture. It's like, oh, this person said or did something that I dislike or don't agree with, or maybe I would do things differently. So you just completely shut them off and they're bad and you're good. It's like we have no sense of thinking like, well, perhaps she's changed her parenting strategies over the years as we have all learned to do things better. Like her TV show was on so long ago.
Such a long time ago.
Not everybody agrees with everything that gentle parenting has to offer. Like you can take bits and pieces of different strategies for whatever feels good to you. But I was just like, can we not have this mindset where it's like, oh, she gave a kid a timeout once, so she's canceled from my life forever. So anyways, I put out this thing on my stories. I was like, oh my God, like I hope Super Nanny, like I wish she would come on the podcast so we could talk about this. And she is.
Yes! Oh,
I'm
that's
so excited.
Awesome. Yes.
Super Nanny.
That's the best. I mean, I loved that show. I also watched that show a lot at that time because I think I was if I remember correctly, I think I was babysitting a lot at that time too. So it was kind of helpful.
You're like, ooh, what are her strategies?
Oh my God. You know, it's funny that you mentioned her. I think I followed her just like last week, only a couple days ago. So she's actually top of mind for me because I happened to be on her page somehow. Maybe it's because you were talking about her. I don't know. Somehow I just followed her like in the last few days.
I know. My mom was so excited. She's like, oh, she's still around? I was like, yeah. Like, she's still out there creating content for parents. She's got like almost 600,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
she's doing the stuff.
Go Joe.
I can't wait for that episode.
I know. I'm very excited to just talk about, you know, her experience with like helping families and what strategies she uses and what she thinks about this whole like gentle parenting movement. And like, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I would love to hear what she thinks about like gentle parenting and conscious parenting and all of that kind of stuff. Because that was simply not in the vernacular 20 years ago when her show was on. So I'd be super curious to hear that.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Somebody was like, why don't you ask Dr. Becky or like somebody else from the gentle parenting like world to come on the podcast? And I was like, why can't I have everybody?
Yeah.
and just have a conversation.
It doesn't have to be one or the other. Have you had Dr. Shafali on the show?
Yes, I love her.
Yeah, I do too. She's amazing. So she's conscious parenting. Talk to her.
Yeah.
Talk to all the people. That's what we're here for.
She's great. The way she thinks about like motherhood and parenting and the way she views that, I really enjoy the way she speaks about it.
Yeah, me too. I adore her. She is really one of my favorites.
So when I emailed you, I almost forgot to bring this up. I was like, oh, did you watch any like documentaries or TV shows or movies lately that like we could talk about? I was not expecting this response. I was like, oh, maybe she's seen It Ends With Us, or, you know, she's watching the new Kristen Bell series on Netflix.
So Renee, I am such a freaking wild card when it comes to shows, and I'll tell you why.
That.
Okay. No, like, hey, you think that's like, okay. So I have never watched any like Bravo shows, despite having once had an interview with the Real Housewives of New Jersey casting director, because they sought me out. I didn't seek them out.
Are you shitting me? For what?
No, I'm serious. That probably would have been...
Like you interviewed a housewife, or you or
no, they were interviewing me to be a cast member.
Stop.
Yeah, but it was like such a long time ago. It was like fall or winter of 2019. It was before the pandemic. So
do you live in New Jersey?
I do. I live just outside New York City. I live like where everybody lives. Like we're all like just being New Jersey people together.
Oh my God, stop it. Oh my God.
So I spoke to the cast. I'll tell you the story. They reached out to me because I was featured in a local magazine and the local newspaper, and they did like, you know, a spread about it. Because back then, you know, it was, I don't know, whatever. So the casting director reached out to me. He and I had a lovely conversation, great conversation. And he's like, okay, I'm going to like put you forward to talk to my manager, who is like the head of casting for Housewives. And then I never heard back from them again. And I was like, okay, that's for the best. It's totally fine. And then like when Jackie joined the show, not that long after that, then I had worked with Jackie on a project. But yeah, we all kind of like live all right around here. I live in a town called Closter. It's next to Tenafly, which is where, I don't know, I think Maggie lives in Tenafly. I know Jackie lives in Tenafly. They're like right down the street from me. We're all just vibing together.
It is so well. See, this is okay. So tomorrow is the relaunch of this podcast. And so this episode will come out the following week, but like this is the kind of stuff that I want to hear, you know?
Oh, I'll tell you all the stuff. So yeah, so like, you know, it's funny. People are always like, oh, Tara, let's like talk about like modern mom problems and, you know, motherhood. And it's like, I could talk about that stuff. I talk about that stuff all the time. But when you like really want to hear stuff, then I'll like really get into stuff. So yeah, so there was a chance that I could have been a Real Housewife. But like I said, this was before they brought Jackie on. And she's lovely.
And you've never seen it. You've never seen...
I had to watch it when I had the conversation with the casting director. And it's funny because, like, you know, they go to places that we go to. Like, there's a place up in Vernon, New Jersey called Mountain Creek. And we my family and I often, like, go up and stay at the hotels at the resort and Crystal Springs, it's called. And so it's like, oh, that's nice. Like, they're up there. We go up there. We're all in the same world together. But no, I never really watched the show properly. I mean, I know about it, but I've never watched it. I've never watched any of the other ones. I did see on Saturday. So today's Monday, right? On Saturday, I went to see Whitney Cummings in New York City, and she had Bethany Frankel on. So Whitney did a stand-up routine, and then after her stand-up routine, she invited Bethany on stage, and they did like a sit-down podcast kind of, and it was great. And so Bethany was just dropping gems. What an insightful woman. I mean, she's just brilliant. And so I've never watched Real Housewives of New York, but like I know about her, obviously. Yeah. Like she's crushing it out there. So yeah, so going back to my TV watching habits, okay? I never watch Bravo. I don't watch any girly things at all. No rom-coms, no, I don't know. I don't even know what girls watch.
How do you decide what to watch?
It was stuff that I'm interested in. So I love like history documentaries. I'll watch the shit out of World War II documentaries. Like,
oh my God, you should be friends with my sister. She's like, did you see that World War II documentary? I'm like, no, I didn't.
So like I just watch like stuff that people think they have me pegged, and then they'll talk to me, be like, "Oh, did you see this?" And I'm like, "No, but did you see Peaky Blinders?" And they're like, "Yeah." So like if you want to know me as a person, like Peaky Blinders is like one of my favorite shows of all time. That's all you need to know about me. But going back to what we were talking about, there's a new documentary on HBO Max called Chimp Crazy. And on this show, it featured many different families, but one in particular. It featured the story about this woman named Tanya who lives in Missouri. And she has a chimpanzee named Tonka. Now, Tonka had been an actor, I'm using this in quotes, had been an actor in Hollywood. He was in Babe in the City and George of the Jungle and a couple other movies. And she goes to great lengths to keep him, but PETA wants to take him away from her and put him in a very nice sanctuary in Florida with all the other chimps. There's like 300 other chimps that are happy and they're thriving, and PETA wants Tonka to be there. She's lying to the courts. She's lying to PETA. She's keeping him in a cage in her basement by the Ozarks in Missouri. It's like a whole thing. It's wild. But what's wild about this, and why I wanted to mention it at all, is that the one recurring theme that I keep seeing with these women who have chimpanzees as babies, essentially, they're raising them as babies, is that they're older women. They're sort of 50s, 60s, and they're raising these chimps as their own children, because the chimps, in theory, don't grow up and leave them. Made me think there's a lot to unpack here, because these women got so used to being the caretaker role, and now that their kids are grown and out of the house, they're looking for someone else to take care of, but forever, that will always give them unconditional love, and they could feed out of a baby bottle and change their diapers and not grow up and leave them. And actually, that was a quote that Tanya had said, is that all of my other children grew up and left me, and now Tonka will always need me. So it's this really crazy dependent relationship.
Is it illegal to have the monkey?
It is. So there was a facility in Missouri, and this one woman, Connie Casey, who was I was about to say the pimp. That's really not what it is. She was the main woman, the breeder. She was the breeder of all these chimpanzees. Then she would sell them to families in Hollywood and zoos and all that kind of stuff all across the country. And I think what she was doing was legal. So there was a time, to answer your question, I think it is legal to own a chimp. And then in certain towns and certain areas, you might need a permit to have a chimp over a certain poundage. If they're over 150 pounds or 200 pounds, then you need a permit. But no, I think you could just go get one.
It's interesting about your children are grown and you're not necessarily a caretaker to anybody anymore. It was making me think about, so Milo is 6 years old. Your son is 12. So obviously between, even from, the early years to being 6 years old, it's a massive shift. There's some nights where now, usually we always go lay with him, rub his back. And he's like, "You don't have to rub my back tonight." I'm like, "What?" Sorry, what? Lay down, I'm rubbing your fucking back, okay?
wait till he's 12. No, I do the same thing to him. You need a hug. Yeah, you need a hug.
So what is a 12? It's so funny because there's some things that I absolutely love. And the fact that he can play independently with the neighbors outside now. And I don't have to worry about getting him into his car seat. He physically gets up there himself. Life is so much easier at 6 years old. Let me tell you, it's a different world. But I feel as though in the next few years, it's almost going to be okay, that's too much now, And what's your experience with that, having a 12-year-old?
It's funny because when Jack was 3, he used to have really bad tantrums. And so my husband jokingly would say, not to Jack, but to me and sort of just to the air, "Oh, God, just be 6 already. Can you just be 6? He would never say it to him, but he'd be "Oh, just be 6. Because meaning that when you have a 6-year-old, things are a lot easier. And it's true. And then they were. And now that my son is just on the cusp of turning 12, I think back and go, oh my God, that was 6 years ago when we were asking him like, oh, just be 6. And it's wild to think that. But I think 6 is a great age. Obviously, my husband thinks 6 is a great age because we wanted Jack to be 6. But that came and went. I think that you are gearing up for, in my opinion, the best golden age of parenting right now. Okay. I think the ages between 6 and, I mean, I don't know, 12 is still pretty good. Let's say 6 and 12, right? Is like, it's awesome. They're becoming more independent. Like you said, you don't have to worry about putting them in the car seat. You're not always wiping their butt. Like the physical part of that gets so much easier, you know, and you almost don't realize it until it's gone. And then you kind of look around. Sometimes you go, oh, nobody needs me right now. Not in a bad way, but just like in a, oh, look how quiet it is. No one's like, Mommy, can you wipe? Or and it's kind of wild. But I think 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is like, it's awesome. It's awesome. Like, just enjoy it. For me, it went very quickly because that was like during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So Jack was 7 when the pandemic hit. And then, you know, we were home for a couple of years because he did like virtual school. And then he went back to in-person school. And the next thing I knew, I blinked and I was like, oh my God, he's big now. Now we're like double digits. So it's kind of crazy. But I think you're just like gearing up for like smooth sailing. Now, again, it depends on the person and depends on their temperament. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But I don't know. Based upon like all of my friends that are sort of like in this mix, because a lot of my friends have 12-year-olds, but then they also have kids that are like 2 or 3 years younger. So they're still like firmly in this age group. And everyone's just like, I don't know. It's good.
What is your son into right now?
He is big into American Ninja Warrior, like parkour.
Nice.
He's like exceptionally good at that. He's like a little monkey. You know, God, going back to the chimpanzee stuff. But
Tara, do you have a monkey?
That's going to be the big revelation of this entire podcast. Is that
I'm calling PETA.
I don't have a human child. I have a chimpanzee child.
Yeah,
and his
she's
name
not
is
married,
Jack.
and she has a chimpanzee.
They're going to come and take me away. No, Jack he's biologically mine with another human man. We made a human child.
Sure.
But Jack does climb like a monkey, so he's really good at Ninja Warrior, and he loves gaming. He loves like Roblox and all that garbage. No, I'm
does
just
he do Minecraft?
He does. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
He was actually playing Minecraft with a friend of his last night. It's really cute.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Milo is super into Minecraft. I don't know if he's slowly learning. Like when we first got Minecraft for the Nintendo, I didn't even understand. I couldn't even maneuver the person around.
I still can't.
I was clueless.
I'm a disaster with that.
I can't. It doesn't make any sense. No. And like it's so pixelated, and I just don't get any of it. But he has taught himself. It's wild to see him do it now, and I am looking forward to him like being able to play with people. That'll be so cute.
It's so cute. It is cute. I thought it was cute. Last night, Jack was like, oh, I'm going to call my friend Carol and we're going to play Minecraft together. And it's cute because it was sort of a throwback for him. He doesn't often play Minecraft, but they were like just in the mood. They were working on a project together. So they were able to like collaborate on this project. And I love that. I think Minecraft is very sweet. So good for Milo. But I agree. I always say to Jack, I'm like, you know, the graphics are so like bad. Like, are you sure you like this? And he's like, no, Mom, it's cool. He's like, they're doing it on purpose. I'm like, I know they do it on purpose, but it hurts my eyes. And he plays it on an iPad, and I'm like the worst at playing that kind of stuff on an iPad. Like, I need a controller. Like, I want to play Mario Kart or Smash Brothers or something. Like, give me a controller that I could like go up, down, side, left, right, whatever. Then I could do it. But don't give me an iPad and make me do the stuff. I just can't.
No, it's too much. And that's when I realized, like, okay, I'm the older person in this situation, you know? Like, I'm slowly turning into an older person.
No, you're not. You're so cute and you're so young. You got long time to go.
Good Lord.
Such a long time to go with that kind of stuff, though.
Okay.
No, but it's cute.
Before I let you go, I saw something on your profile that's called Modern Mom Style Box. What is that?
Yeah. It is I wish I could send it to you, but you're in Canada and we only have it in the US. It is subscription clothing service where members sign up, and for X amount each month you have a box of clothes sent to you and you wear them, and sometimes you like them and sometimes you don't like them and sometimes you love them and you're like, I have to buy them, and then there's a discount that's like up to 90% that you could like buy it and keep it for you always. And then the more you send the boxes back, the quicker you get new boxes. So in the course of 1 month you can get, I mean, I probably had like at least 4 boxes in the course of 1 month. So
wow.
I'm constantly like getting.
So do people
clothes.
pick what they get, or is it just random?
You pick the things to put in your closet, and then
Okay.
when those become available, then they get sent to you. Mm-hmm.
That is so neat.
Yeah.
Like,
so the more stuff you have in your closet, the better it is to get more stuff. Like I have like 50 things in my closet right now.
I feel like more things like this need to exist. Now that I get invited to events and stuff, I'm like, I'm not buying a nice dress to wear to all these events. And there's a place in Toronto where it's like all gowns. It's so wild. And they have them organized by size. Mm-hmm. You could just go in there, try on a million dresses, and then you rent it for the days that you need it. You bring it back. I'm like, this is genius.
Love it.
More
Love
things like that need to
I know. I'm all
exist.
about that, because I agree. It's true that you don't want to constantly be buying stuff for, you do a lot of like red carpet events. Like you don't want to be wearing the same thing that you wore like 6 months ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever. This sounds so silly, but I'll just say it. Like on Saturday night when we went to see Whitney Cummings, she and I were taking pictures together, and I was in an outfit which I've worn before, and I was like, that's so silly that I care that like, you know, I'm in this outfit. And it was like a very simple outfit because I dress like pretty simply anyway, but I'm all about renting my clothes, and for vacation too. Because like I always rent my vacation clothes and then send them back.
That's smart.
Yeah,
Yes.
big fan. But unfortunately,
right.
it's only available in the US. But if it wasn't, then I would be sending you all the stuff.
Oh, one day. One day, if you open up to Canada, or maybe we'll move to the States. Probably not, but
Probably not. Why? Why would you, Renee? Why?
my husband, he only has to like completely relicense himself as a doctor to be able to work in the States. He's like, I would have to write like a whole other exam, like do all this stuff. I'm like, okay, well.
No.
So if I become the
right where you are.
breadwinner,
Yes.
he's always like, when can I retire? Like, and so that's my dream, to be like, hey, baby, you're gonna retire today.
Yes.
We'll see.
What do you think he would do? Like, let's say you
He
retire
says he
your
would
husband.
retire. Like, there's no way.
You know what my husband wants to do? He wants to become a biology teacher. I don't know, like high school or college, maybe like a community college, like biology teacher. That's like that's my chill job. I'm like
His
okay.
retirement plan.
That's his
kinda.
retirement plan. But he's been really big into that lately. What would you do if you were like
Like if I wasn't doing this, or like,
Yes.
what is my dream job?
all of it? I want to hear everything. We want to hear everything.
I would love to be, and everybody knows this, I would love to be like a travel critic, like a reviewer of resorts, spas, hotels, airlines, like all the things.
Yes.
Love it, because I'm very high maintenance and I notice everything.
Yes.
So would love to do that. And then like have a blog where I like write up all the reviews and stuff. I mean, I thought I was going to work in a research institute, or like if I could, I would be a professor, like a psych professor. It's just with my husband's job, it's almost impossible to find a professor job and a urology job in the same city. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
So
You could come to New York City. You would
for
definitely
sure.
find that here.
for sure. So many things. Okay, well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. And I love that you asked me about the chimpanzee thing, because I was like, I watched it the other night. I think it was Friday night. I watched it until like, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning, which like, I never stay awake. My husband was sleeping. My son was in his room. I think my son probably came in our room at like 3 a.m. I don't know.
Now
if
I
Milo
have to
still
watch
comes.
it.
I don't know. It's crazy. It's by the same people that did Tiger King. It's
I
by
knew
the
you
same,
were going to say that.
Yeah, it's the same production company, but this time it's chimpanzees and it's a woman. And I don't know. I think Tiger King was still a little bit more out there, but this one, I don't know. I was riveted. I was up until 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I was thinking about the caretaker aspect of it and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe I would be safer watching the Bravo shows. I don't know.
Yeah, well, now you have an idea for some content. So
It's true. That's
should
going
talk
back to,
about it.
we're bringing it full circle when we were talking about having ideas for content, but then not actually executing on them.
Yeah.
It might be that.
this is content, though.
It's all content. Everything is content.
Everything is content. So where can people find you? Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah. So I'm big into branding. So everything's under Modern Mom Probs, right? Follow me on Instagram at Modern Mom Probs. Listen to my Modern Mom Probs podcast. Anything that's Modern Mom Probs, it's me. That's what we're doing. Check out Modern Mom Style Box. Thank you for the shout out on that one, Renee. I appreciate that. And yeah, follow me. Let's be friends.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.